Namaste children. Children, today the topic which I have taken up is the next chapter of your syllabus, which is given in the book Hornbill. The name of the chapter is Landscape of the Soul. It is written by Natalie Troberoy. Children, the author of this chapter, Natalie Troberoy, is an art historian. She has a master's degree in the history of art and archaeology from the University of Belgium. Children, she became famous because of the translation of the book City of Digits in French. She is an accomplished translator of catalogs and art books from Dutch into different European languages. Now, let me introduce you to the characters of the chapter. The first character of the chapter is Wu Daozi. Wu Daozi is the 8th century Chinese landscape painter who disappeared in his last painting and was never seen again. The next character of the chapter is Emperor Yunzong. He is an 8th century Chinese king who commissioned a painter named Wu Daozi to paint a landscape on one of the walls of his palace. He appreciated the painting, but he was not an active participant in it. The third character of the chapter is Quentin Massys. He is a blacksmith by profession, but he changed his profession from blacksmith to a painter so that he could marry to a girl whom he loved. Now, let us talk about the chapter in brief. Basically, what is this chapter about? This chapter is a comparative study of European and Chinese painting. In this chapter, we will read about two different kinds of paintings. One is European painting and the other one is Chinese painting. The writer contrasts Chinese art with European art. And how did the writer contrast between these two paintings? By recounting two stories about Chinese art and one story about European art. So in this chapter we will read two stories about Chinese paintings and one story about European painting, and we'll come to know what is the contrast between these two kinds of art. Children, you all know that art is one of the forms of expression like music, poetry and dance. If I tell you to define these expressions in words, yes, you would agree with me, we cannot. Because these forms of expression cannot be defined. They need to be felt. They need to be experienced. In the same chapter, we will also read about one of the principles of Taoism, which is called Shen Shui. Children, Shen Shui is a Chinese word which means a landscape. So we will read about this principle of Taoism, which is called Shen Shui, And this principle is also clearly reflected in Chinese paintings. In Chinese paintings, painters need the active participation of the viewer. He wants both physical as well as mental participation of the viewer if he or she really wants to understand that painting. Without physical and mental participation, a viewer cannot understand what is the painting about or what exactly the painter is trying to convey, trying to say through his painting. Now let us discuss the chapter in detail. This chapter is a comparative study of European and Chinese painting. So, in order to illustrate this difference, the writer gives two interesting stories. One is related to a European painter and the other related to an Asian painter. The chapter starts with an anecdote about Chinese painter Wu Daozi. A Chinese painter, Emperor Yunzong, commissioned a painter named Wu Daozi to paint a landscape. When the painting was ready, the emperor was invited to appreciate it. He enjoyed looking at the forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds, men on hilly paths, birds in flight, etc., depicted in the painting. But the painter was not satisfied, and he invited the attention of the emperor towards a cave in the painting, inside which the painter said resided a spirit. The painter clapped his hands, causing the entrance to the cave. Then the painter said, "The inside is splendid, beyond anything words can convey." The cave door was closed, and the painting disappeared from the wall before the emperor could move. The next interesting story is about European painter Quentin Matsy. A 15th century Belgian blacksmith named Quentin Matsys fell in love with a painter's daughter. Knowing that her father would not accept him because of his profession, he secretly entered the painter's studio and painted such a realistic fly on the artist's panel that the master tried to move it away before he realized that it was not real. Afterwards, Quentin was accepted by the master as an apprentice, and finally he was successful in marrying the girl whom he loved and became famous for his realism in painting. Children, such stories as that about Wu Daozi are very common in Chinese classical education. Such tales reveal that art has an inner life, meaning, or soul. The emperor had appreciated the painting only from what he saw. He could only see the body of the painting, whereas the painter tried to show him the soul, the inner life, and the real meaning of the painting. Chinese paintings are based on the philosophy of Taoism. Tao means path or way, the way into the mysteries of the universe. Life has no meaning unless we undertake the inner spiritual journey. When Wu Daozi said, "Let me show you the way," he meant the way to the inner meaning of art or mystery of the universe. This is the spirit of Chinese paintings. They do not reproduce an actual view, but use a real landscape to say something more.
A Chinese painter therefore wants the viewer to take plural viewpoints to enter into his painting and travel in it. He wants the viewer's active participation, not only physical but also mental. His landscape is not a copy of a real landscape. According to Taoism, this universe is composed of two complementary poles, yin and yang. The interaction of these two energies makes the universe, and the meeting point called the middle void. It holds great significance, though it is often overlooked by the viewer. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama. We breathe in, retain, and breathe out. The retain part is the middle void where meditation occurs. So, this void, this middle void is essential. Nothing can happen without it. In Taoism, a landscape is called San Shui. Children, let us understand what is the concept of Shan Shui. Shan Shui basically is a Chinese word which means yang yin. Yang means mountain and yin means water. These two words represent the Taoist view of the universe. The mountain is yang. It reaches vertically towards heaven. It is stable, warm, and dry in the sun. The water is yin. It is fluid, moist, and cool. It rests horizontally on the earth. It is the receptive and feminine aspect of human energy. Its counterpart is yang, which is active and masculine. So these two elements in a Chinese landscape are also yin and yang. Another term which is very important for this chapter is the different kinds of art. Let us understand these different terms: outsider art and art brat or raw art. Children, these words represent a new art form. They are all used for the art of those who have no right to be artists. It is the art of those who have received no formal training, but they have an unusual talent and a deep artistic insight. These outsider artists do not use any brush or paints. They work with anything and everything from a tin to a sink to a broken down car. Now, the last term which is mentioned by the writer is about an untutored genius who created a paradise. This untutored genius was Nek Chand, and the paradise which he created is the rock garden of Chandigarh. He cleared a little patch of jungle and he created a wonderful work of art. For it, he used only stone and broken pieces of things. It is considered his greatest contribution to outsider art. Nek Chand did not have any formal training in art, but he had an unusual talent and a deep artistic insight. He took this new form of art to dizzying heights. His talent has been recognized all over the world. But Nek Chand said the biggest reward is walking through the garden and seeing people enjoy his creation. Thank you.